with people, you can get straight to the point. Straight to the point. And that's how we need to be with God. I know when the mom called me on Monday, he said, "Where are you?" I was walking, was getting my steps in. I was away, but I was getting my steps in. But when he told me, I said, "Oh my God." And that is not something that is in my vocabulary to say. I might say, "Oh my goodness." I don't even say, "Oh my gosh." It's just not for me to say. But oh my God, it was like something just punched me. So instant reaction, that's what we're striving towards. Now this week is about seeking solitude. And how many know there's so many distractions competing for our mind, our time. You have to intentionally, just the intensity of distractions in this 2025 is nothing like when I was growing up. And Kim, I know at 62 was nothing like when you were growing up. Constant. This little thing that we call a telephone. Once upon a time, TV was, when I was growing up, hey, the one channel that we had in Barbados when it was started at 4, the national anthem came on, the shows played, and when it was time to go off, the national anthem came on. Yeah. Now you don't even need a TV in the house. But that phone connected to the World Wide Web, constant distractions. And I'm going to be short, we have a 6-minute video. So we have to be intentional in keeping out the noise. We are in the world. We got to keep living. We got to occupy until he comes. We can't just build 3 tabernacles and wait for Jesus to come. We have to keep living. So there will be noise all around. There will be distractions all around. Things will be like Job. When one thing is finished, here comes another. When one thing is finished, and before that's done, here comes another. It's important that we seek solitude, that we center ourselves, ground ourselves in God to deal with the noise and deal with it the right way. So that's what we are doing this week. So we left prayer, and we're still praying. We're still reading the scripture. We're still doing all of that, but now this is God-focused. Yeah? And we need him more than ever. More than ever. So let's watch this video, Seeking Solitude. And I encourage us all to keep each other lifted up. We need each other. We need to build each other. When it's your turn, I need to be there for you. When it's my turn, be here for me. David said, when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock. And when I picture that, he said, when my heart is overwhelmed, that means that he is so broken. He knows where he's supposed to go, but he isn't going. So he's saying, lead me. While I'm in my right mind, this is where I want to go. If something happens, lead me over there when my heart is overwhelmed. I can't go by myself. Lead me to the rock. And that's where we're going this week, okay? All right. Absolutely.
When you were talking about all the distractions and everything, I remember the sermon Bishop Williams preached. I think it was last year or year before last, Table Talk. You know, that right there meant so much, you know. He said, put the phones down. We need to talk to our family when we're at the dinner table. talk to our children, you know, put the phone down. I won't forget that sermon, Bishop Williams, table talk.
All right, anyone else before we start the video? Okay.
So welcome back to Red Letter Being Challenged, where we're challenging you to put the habits of Jesus into your life. As we walk on this long journey called life, it's important that we embody exactly who Jesus was and what he did and what he said. And so today's habit is one of the ones I was actually surprised at just how often it came up in the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And it's this practice of Jesus spending alone time with God. So we're calling this habit seeking solitude. Jesus sought solitude all the time. In fact, as I was reading through the scriptures, I found about 39 different times where Jesus either sought solitude or preached and taught on the importance of alone time with God. I know some other habits have been committing to community, and also there's next week choosing church, which is definitely involving a lot of people in our lives. But Jesus had this beautiful balance of knowing how much time to spend with people and then when he needed to be alone with God. Jesus sought solitude before making big decisions, before he went out and picked the 12 disciples. Jesus sought solitude before doing the hard work, even in the middle of the hard work, before enduring the cross, the hardest thing ever for him. Jesus even sought solitude when he grieved the loss of one of his friends, John the Baptist, as he was martyred for his life. You see all these times in which Jesus was seeking solitude. Are you seeking solitude? You know, in our day, it's really easy for us to not only be confused, we talked about that last week with all the options, but I call this a very loud and distracting world. In fact, I can't go very long without what? Phones buzzing and watches beeping and emails dinging and notifications popping. I mean, everywhere I am, I'm surrounded by, it seems like, distraction. The tech company Asurion took a look at cell phones and actually a couple of years ago found that the average person checks their phone 80 times a day. That's the average person. The average millennial is closer to 150, which tells us we can't go 5 to 10 minutes without seeing what's new on the phone. And in fact, only 1 out of 4 of you watching this right now can use the bathroom without watching your smartphone. I think we've gotten a little bit too distracted. And so if prayer was the answer last week for how we can connect to God in a confusing world, I believe that solitude is the answer for us for how we can disconnect from the world, from the very loud, distracting world, and engage with God again to regain our focus. So in order to help you think about solitude and focus, I heard a story about a horse in Florida named Macho Again. Now this is Brandon Henry, our local horse here. But this racehorse, Macho Again, actually did quite well, earned almost $2 million, although he didn't get to spend any of that money on himself. The owners of Macho Again noticed a lot of potential in the early races. This guy could get out there really quick, but what happened in the early races is he would lose focus and he would look to the side and he would get distracted and he would look back, and objects were in his sort of predator threat zone. And so they tried to figure out, how can we get this racehorse to run the race that we know he can run? And so they did something early. They put on something called blinders on this horse, and the blinders are meant to kind of go on the sides of the horse's eyes so that as the horse races, he can't look back and he can't look to the side, but rather keeps his eyes focused on the prize, which for them was the finish line and the almost $2 million that they ended up earning. And I really believe that blinders for horses is a lot like solitude for humans. That God has also called us to run a race, and yet as we're running this race in this world, as we're trying to be the greatest followers that we can be of Jesus Christ, we live in a loud and distracting world where we can lose our focus. I don't know about you, but I need to focus in my life. And I'm thinking, man, if Jesus, who was the most focused individual ever to live, had times where he sought alone time with God to recharge and to refocus, how much more do I need that in my life? In fact, as a preacher, one of the things that I do nearly every Sunday is I get to deliver a message. And it happens in a lot of ways. The preparation, it happens through the studying of Scripture, through prioritizing prayer, some of the things we've talked about, through collaborating in community. But I think for me, where it really comes together is in my spending time with God, my solitude with Him, where it's just me and Him. In my solitude, I tell you, my dreams go farther than they go anywhere else. My imagination goes places, it goes nowhere else. And this is the time where I feel most connected to God and where I feel like my purpose with Him is most revealed. You have been called to run a race. And as we run this race, these habits are meant to help you run faster, to help you run farther than you think you could go. In fact, Paul, the writer of Hebrews, tells us that we are to run the race and to throw off everything that hinders us, the sin that so easily entangles us, and to run the race with perseverance marked for us. How do we do it? By fixing our eyes on Jesus Christ, who he says is the pioneer and perfecter. Other translations say the author and the finisher of our stories. God is writing a beautiful story for you. It's a wonderful thing that God is doing in your life. And so as we tell these stories with our lives, may we never get so enamored and distracted by the things of this world, as good as they may be, and lose our focal point, which is Jesus Christ.